So we're just going to make sure that our whole canvas is a little bit damp. And then if you guys could give me a thumbs up when you're done that, every time we go through a step, if you guys could give me a thumbs up saying you're done, that way I know we can move on to the next one. All right, so we're gonna start the painting part. We're gonna work on the top part of our background here. So as you can see, the first half above this gray line has a gradient of yellow, orange, and then red, and that's gonna create our sunset for us. So what we're gonna do first is paint the first third of our canvas yellow. And I don't know if you can tell, but it's yellow and white up there. So what we want to do is take our brush and put, I'm going to make sure we're all muted here. Yep. So we want to take our brush, and if you want to put kind of half of it in the yellow and half of it in the white, so you have both colors on your same brush. You guys can see that. There we go. And what we're going to do is paint the top third of our canvas with that. So maybe what I like to do is draw a line a third of the way and then just kind of fill it in. And just paint the entire top third of our canvas. One of the things as well, you can make it as light or as dark as you want. One of the things as well that I like to do is paint the edges. So if we're going to be putting these on our walls later, make sure to paint the sides of the canvas as well as the top so it looks like it's a full circle here. I want to make sure the top third has a little bit of white, a little bit of yellow, that it's not all just one color. It has a little bit of texture to it, a little bit of depth to it. And then do the top part of your canvas as well so it goes around. We're not seeing just a white border at the end when everything's done. And one of the nice things about working with the acrylic paint is that once it's dry, if you don't like something, you can always go over and add to it. So we just want our top third in yellow. All right, I'll move the microphone a little bit closer. Is that better, Susan? All right, there we go, perfect.
Are you wetting your brush each time you go back to the paint or just the first time?
I wasn't, no. No, I was just kind of adding to it every time.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then once you have your top third, give us a thumbs up. All right, so the next portion we're going to do is this orange chunk here. So we're going to do about another half. What I want us to do is take our brush. You can still leave the yellow on it, that's okay. And we want to dip it in our bright red. And then at about the halfway mark, just draw a line across in bright red. Perfect. So we know that our kind of horizon is going to be right here. So what we're aiming to do is fill the space between our red line and the yellow in a red to orange gradient. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by creating some orange. So we can use our red brush now and mix our red and our yellow together to get a nice sunset orange. Nice screen. I'm just going to make, maybe I'll move my camera down. That might be easier than moving my paint up. And just mixing our red and our yellow together. So what I like to do, kind of start in the middle and just move it up. And then as we get to the top near our yellow, I like to add some white to my brush so that it mixes seamlessly the top. So it goes from a nice yellow to a soft orange. And then as you go further down towards the red line, you want your orange to get darker and be bright red at the very bottom. And again, you want it to have some texture to the color, some depth to it, so that you can really see that sun setting. So nice gradient there. And feel free to add any other colors you want. If you need it to be a little more yellow, you can add yellow on top of the orange to make it blend a little bit easier. Go. Nice gradient from yellow to bright red. And a lot of this is going to be covered up by our trees, our cabin. So it's just creating that top third background. We will be covering up quite a bit of it. So if you're not too happy with it, that's okay. We'll cover it up. I'll move out of the way so you can see the photos. Perfect, looks good, Mary Jane. Excellent, so once we have the top third, we're gonna work on the bottom portion. So what we're gonna do is take our brush again, we don't have to take any paint off, we're gonna red again, and we're gonna draw a line about 2/3 from the bottom. So there's going to be a little portion of white that we still have. We're going to draw a nice red line, and we're going to fill in everything below that red line. So what we're doing is creating this water here. And so we're going to do something very similar to what we did with the sky. However, it's going to be a lot chunkier. So we're going to take our brush, and we're going to use our reds, our oranges, and our yellows, and we're just going to create big chunks of color. And we're going to try and fill in that entire water that way. So I'll show you what we're going to do. I'm going to start with my red. And I'm just going to take big chunks of red everywhere. Then I'm going to take my yellow, and I'm going to do the same thing. And I'm not cleaning my brush in between because it's going to give us a lot of depth, a lot of color, and a lot of just that movement that we want in water. So we're going to do a lot of that, and then we can create our, put some orange in, and just kind of make big chunks until the whole part of the bottom is full. We can also pick up our white and add chunks of white in as well. So it's just going to fill this whole space in with these big chunks. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect because we are going to be covering it up. And if there's parts you don't like, once it's dry, we can cover that up as well. So just kind of fill in that water, our big chunks. If you feel like your brush is making the strokes too big as well, you can either do it sideways like I was doing, or put it vertically, and you'll get those smaller waves as well. So it's nice to have a mixture of both. Especially when you're adding the white, I find if you put your brush sideways, it's a little bit better. We'll take some time and fill out our water. The paint is acrylic as well, so if you do happen to get it on your clothes or your person, it will wash off. When we do these events in person at Amica, we usually have some music going, but the music doesn't travel very well over the internet, so. Don't forget to do the sides as well.
Erin, are you using some water in there as well just to help smush the colors together? No, just paint.
No, exactly, because you really want it chunky.
Got it.
So it should be kind of the same color scheme as above, but more chunky. We'll get a nice movement of water, I guess. And there's no right or wrong for the combinations of colors. Whatever calls to you. Awesome. Everyone's looking good. Perfect. Once we've finished with the water, same thing, just give me a thumbs up, but there's no rush. Perfect. All right. Looks like we have quite a few thumbs up. So we'll start with the next portion. We're going to move on to these background trees here. So this is going to be a really fun part. We're going to mix some gray, and we're going to create these trees. And again, we are going to be covering them up quite a bit, so they don't have to be perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by mixing some gray. Gray or purple, whatever you prefer. What we're going to do is we're going to take our blue, our black, and our white and try and make a nice light gray. So we'll just
Are you using your middle brush now?
Yes, we're going to move on to our smallest brush that we have. Because we're going to make these tiny, tiny little trees behind us. We're going to mix. There you go. We're going to mix this gray color. And we're going to use that later on as well in our horizon. For our trees, we're going to have them coming out of this top line here. And how we're going to start the trees is by just drawing some lines and then filling in the branches later. So we want them to start high on the outside and then do a semicircle back up. So we're just going to draw some lines that come up in the middle of the yellow. We're going to draw a tall one. Just going to draw a line. And we're going to draw one beside. And just get lower and lower every time. And there's no right or wrong way to say how many trees we're going to have. Just want to draw the trunks all the way across. They're gray. And make sure to bring them up on the other side so we have that nice semicircle of trees. We want to use our thin brush, create those trunks. And so today we're actually going to be using two different techniques for painting trees. We're going to be using one for these background trees and a different technique for the foreground trees, big pine ones that we'll add in later. So I'm just going to show you on the back of my canvas here what we're going to do to create the trees. We've all, try not to get too much paint on me. We all have our line. And then for our background trees, we're going to take our gray and we're just going to make little feathers down below. We want a lot of paint on our brush, and we want to we don't want to repaint, we don't want to re-add the paint as we go down each side. And that will give it a nice feathered look. And then once we fill them all in, it will look really feathered, and we're going to add some snow to kind of fill it in after. So try and only refill your brush with paint for the tall ones, maybe twice on each side, and the smaller ones only once. Start, and you just want to add little feathers to the side of the tree. You still want to be able to see the sunset colors poking through in the back. And again, they don't have to be perfect because we will be covering them up and adding some other things on top. And then we're just going to go through and fill in each one of these. We'll take some time here to do that. I always find that trees are the hardest part of the painting to do, so it's okay if they look a little silly right now because we will fill them in with some snow. Excellent, looks great, Susan. Oh, it looks great, Doug and Marge. Perfect. We'll give everyone a couple more minutes to finish their trees, and then we'll show how to add the snow. Nice winterscape. Perfect for our snowy day today. All right, how's everybody's trees looking? Looking good? Perfect. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna add some snow to our background trees here. So we're gonna clean off our brush so that we get that pure white. And as you can see here, we're just gonna do that same feathering technique on every third or fourth branch. We don't want them to be full of snow, but we want it to be visible that there is some snow on the trees in the background. So we're gonna brush, dry it off. And then we're just gonna add some white feathering there. You can add as much or as little as you want, but it's gonna add some depth. And again, we are gonna cover up quite a bit of these trees. So it's nice to have that change in texture. You can see how those trees already look so much more full. And if you feel like there's too much white on your brush, you can pat it down against your paper towel or your plate so that it's not taking over as much. I'll just go through and add the snow to all of our trees here. We'll give everyone some time to do that. Yeah, so they look a little more alive than they did when they were just gray sticks. Everybody's snow coming along. Oh, beautiful. Nice, Mary Jane. Right. So the next portion we're going to work on is this kind of gray horizon here. So we're going to fill in that white space that we have left on our canvas with some gray. So what I recommend is to take our big brush again and clean it off. Keep losing my paper towel. We're going to clean off our big brush. And we're going to start with just our pure white. And we're going to create a line right underneath our trees. And it can be a little bumpy, a little bubbly, because we're just going to emulate some snow. So we just want it to go across. If you want to add some banks, feel free. Just a nice white line underneath our trees. And then once we've done that, we're going to take some light gray and do the first half in light gray, and it's going to get darker as we go to the bottom. We just want to kind of add our light gray. Not forgetting to do our sides.
I lost the picture.
Oh, who's that?
Joyce, I can't see you anymore.
Oh, is anyone else having that issue? All right. How about now, Joyce?
Nope, nothing. Black.
I think it might be your internet because you do
Well,
keep coming in and out on my screen as well.
Should I go out and come back in?
Yes, good idea. Yeah. All right. So once we have our light gray, we're also going to do a little bit, add some darker gray to the bottom. We're going to get that nice gradient. So we get our dark, our light, and then our white on top. And if you want, you can take your smaller brush, just kind of go over it with some water to blend it if you're not happy with how it's blending. But again, we're going to be covering up quite a bit of it, so don't worry too much. As long as we can see that transition from light to dark, that's the important part. I don't know about you guys, but my hands are covered in paint. So I must be doing something wrong. Perfect. Okay, we're not alone. Once we've filled out that gray middle part, our horizon there. I see Joyce is back.
Recording is on.
Perfect. Are you able to see? All right. So we're going to start adding our snowbanks in. So on our demo photo here that I did last week as practice, we're going to start adding the banks. So we're going to have a snowbank here on our top left-hand corner, the bottom left-hand corner, and as well we're going to have one over here. So we're going to start with the top one here. What we want to do is take our big brush, clean it off, and we're going to add pure white for our snowbanks. We want to take our brush with our white, and we're just going to kind of build a snowbank. So we want to start right underneath our trees here, and we want to bring it in to about a third of the way in, and then kind of circle it under. We're going to be adding to it later, so right now we're just going to cover it with white. Kind of fill it in. It's okay if the colors underneath kind of meld into it. It might not be dry yet, but that's okay because we are, again, going to be adding and removing things later on. So right now we'll just start with the outline. And in the bottom, we're going to do the bottom corner as well. Cover that up. We might have to wait a little bit to make sure that we get that pure white on top of that gray. If yours is like mine, my gray is sticking through quite a bit, and that's okay for now. Once we have our two snowbanks on our left-hand side, we're going to go to the right-hand side, and this snowbank is going to come from the top, and we're going to loop it down in a C, backwards C type formation. And so basically what we're building is the areas that our trees, our big pine trees, are going to grow out of. Going to fill in those areas. And then later on, we're going to add some texture to this snow. So again, don't worry, it doesn't have to be perfect. So it should look a little silly right now.
Erin,
Yep.
we have no white. Our snow is totally gray.
Oh, that's okay. What we're going to do is we're going to go onto our sun to let this dry a little bit before we go to the next stage. But if you look at our demo photo, the snow, we end up adding quite a bit of color to it, so it doesn't actually end up staying white
Okay.
at the end anyways. Yeah, so it's okay. If you look at mine really closely too, it's quite gray in there as well. Excellent. All right, so once we have our snowbanks, we're going to let this area kind of dry a little bit. We're going to take our small brush again, and we're going to add our sun. So we want our sun kind of in the middle between the dark red and the orange. And to make your sun, what I like to do is add white and then a little bit of yellow after. So I take my pure white. I always like to start smaller because it's easier to make it bigger than it is to remove the sun after. So I like to go to where I want my sun here in the middle, create my circle, and then while it's still wet, add some of that yellow and just kind of circle it in there to get a nice dynamic pale yellow sun. That way it's not all one color, because as we know when we look at the sun, it's not all solid. So if we add a little bit of yellow to that already wet white, it makes it look a little more dynamic, I guess. And then once we have our sun, we're going to add a little bit of reflection into this water. So we want to take that same kind of yellow, whitish color, and we want to create that reflection here of the sun. As we know, it's not going to be a circle, so you want to have some long reflections, and then it narrows in. We get our reflection. And then because our background has dried quite a bit for our water, we're going to take our small brush and we're just going to start adding some highlights to it as well. You can see here in our demo one, there's lots of depth, lots of layers, lots of chunks. So we're just going to add some highlights to our water as well. We want to take our white and our yellow and just kind of, with our small brush, just kind of add more highlights to it. Get some more colors in there. If you're feeling adventurous and you want to add some of the gray, feel free. I added some gray to this one and regretted it and tried to cover it up. So if you want to add gray, feel free. It didn't work for me. Make it again a little more dynamic. You can even add some more red just to make it look like that water is moving. Once we're done with that, our kind of highlights, and we can come back to those at the end as well, we're going to add our cabin. You'll see here we have this cute little cabin on top of our snowbank on the left-hand side. So we're going to add him in. We can do it in our gray or our dark black. I like to do it in the black, so he stands out a little bit more. And what we're going to do is we're going to put him towards the edge of our snowbank here. And we're going to create a rectangle. And then we're going to just put a triangle on the first half of it. kind of back in your school days when you're building a little house. That's what we're doing. So a nice rectangle and a triangle on half. And then once you have your outline, we're just going to fill it in with our black. So we have the nice outline of a cabin here. There we go. All right. So once we have our cabin, we're going to start to add our 3 big pine trees. So we have one here, but right beside our cabin, one kind of in the background, and then one up here. So there's a couple different ways that we can make these trees. And what I'm going to suggest, I'm going to show you on the back of my, we're going to use our small brush. And we're going to take our black. We're going to draw, just like we did in the other one, we're going to draw a nice line. And then we're going to start by small branches coming out, and they're going to get longer and longer as we go to the bottom. And we're going to have lots of space in between so that we can come back and take our paintbrush and kind of feather in between them to create that leaf-like look. And this one, it's important to have varying pressure so that you have some leaves that are darker than others to create that realistic tree look. We just want to fill it in. And so it'll look a little silly, so it's half a tree there. It'll look a little silly, but then we'll add some white on top after to make it look a little more realistic. So at the end of it, it will look like a tree. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with those trunks again. Our first one, right beside our cabin. We want it to come up to about the same height as our first tall gray tree here. I'm going to put it in between those trees and have it come down to somewhere a little further down below the cabin. And we're using our thin brush for this. And our second tree is a little bit shorter, and it's coming from the tip of our land over here. We want to make it taller than the trees around it. We're just going to draw our trunk.
Erin, is that black or is it dark gray?
Pardon me?
Black. That trunk, is the trunk of the tree black or dark gray? It looks pretty black.
Yes, I'm using black, just so that when we add our snow after, it has a really nice contrast to it. Yeah.
Thank you.
And our biggest tree is coming from this tip out here. We want to add it so that it's coming out from our bottom little iceberg here. So we should have our 3 branches of our trees, or trunks, I guess, of our trees. And then once we have all of our, once we have all of our trunks, we're going to take that black again, and we're just going to create those branches that we're going to fill in from. And as long as it's shorter at the top and gets larger towards the bottom, that's really all that matters for us. Then we're going to fill in our branches with our feathering technique to create that tree. Oh, we're going to continue onto our trees. Feathering in those branches, giving it some texture along the way. Feathering it all in, giving it that nice pine tree look. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect because we will be adding some snow as well. We'll cover up any of the parts of it we don't like.
If my snow is really gray, dark gray, do I have to put some white to make it nicer?
Is it dry? If it's dry, we can definitely add some more white. Yeah, I would add some white then just to make it a little bit whiter because we will be adding some grass to it. We want to make sure we can just see that contrast between the white and the grass.
Okay, thank you.
How are everyone's pine trees looking?
Uh,
Yeah, I find that if you go back to maybe correct or add a little on to some of the limbs, then you've got the wet black as well as the dry. So you kind of have to wait before you add the white, right? Because you're going to get different colors of white. If it's dry, if the black paint is drier than the wetter stuff.
Oh, you mean for on the trees?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, we're gonna do some other things before we add the snow to the trees. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly, because we want to make sure that they're nice and dry, so it's not gray snow on the trees. Yeah.
So have you added any snow to your trees, your foreground trees yet?
No,
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought
no.
you had.
Oh, no, we just have our black kind of pine trees here.
Okay.
And now if everyone's done their trees, we're gonna go to our cabin. We want to take our small brush again, and we're gonna add some white to its roof. So we're just gonna kind of, go across from the triangle and down and fill that in. So we're filling in the roof with snow. And if we want, we can add 2 little windows. And our cabin has a little more personality to it. If you want to add a door, you can add a door. My cabin doesn't have a door. And then from our cabin, we're going to move on to do some of the grass in our snow. So in our bottom corners, we have a little bit of springtime grass coming out here. I have a mixture of gray, but also it's quite blue, quite gray, and just kind of very wispy. So what I would suggest is to take our small brush, take a little bit of our blue, mix it in with our gray, even a little bit of red if we wanted. And then we're going to take our small brush, just create some V-shaped strokes with our brush, really wispy-like. And then we're going to add some different colors in to make it more textured. We'll add some pure black, and nice and wispy. Maybe even mix some yellow with your blue to create that green. And just continue with those little V shapes till you get some grass sticking out of our snow. And we're going to do that in all 3 snowbanks. Just our little V's, just to add a little bit of texture. And of course, all these steps are optional, so if you really like your snowbanks without your grass, you don't have to add it.
Could you repeat how you make the color again, please?
Oh, yes. So I have 3 different colors in my grass. I have a gray. So I made gray and I added a little bit of blue to it. And then I have a greeny gray color where I have my same gray and I added yellow and blue to it. And then I have some pure black as well, but not as much of that. You can kind of see those 3 colors here. Yeah, it just gives us a little bit more texture from our snowbanks. And then same thing, it's your painting, so if you wanted to add clouds to the sky, if you wanted to add some birds, it's completely up to you. You have complete creative control over your painting. And once we finished our grass, we'll give our trees a little time to dry and we'll add the snow to them. Right, so once we have our grass done, we're going to clean our little brush again so that we can add pure white. And what we're going to do is we're going to add the snow to our trees. So you can see here, we just put pure white on our branches. We can add a whole row of it, half a row. We want to make sure it's staggered, kind of what you would see when you're looking outside today. And it's just going to, again, make those trees look a little more realistic and finish off our winter scape. Take our little brush, and we just want to dab it. So I like to just kind of tap it on there, and it gives it that nice snow texture, like it's just freshly fallen. So just on the tip of your brush, and then just little taps. And we'll go all the way down all 3 of our trees. There's no rhyme or reason, so there's no right answer. You can add as little or as much snow as you want. Just kind of helps the whole scene come alive, just like on those background trees. They're slowly coming to life. Gonna tap along, eating our snow. Our branches. And then our snow's all there.
Could you suggest how I might do a bird in the distance, like just the little way that the V's go? Thank you.
Where's my little brush? So what I suggest is we take our black and you use this very edge of your small brush and you just do a nice little M. Just where you can feel the kind of see its wings flapping. But you want to use the edge of your small brush. If it is coming out big like mine, you can always flatten it down before you use it and to make it a little bit thinner. You can kind of make it thinner as well. And then once you've completed your last bits of snow, the most important part is to sign your artwork after. You want to sign your name wherever you want really, but typically it goes in the bottom right-hand corner and you just finish off with your signature so that everyone knows who the masterpiece was created by. And then at the end, it's always really fun to have everyone show their painting just so we can see what everyone's masterpieces look like. Oh, very nice, Kristen. Looks awesome. Oh, Elliot, amazing. And Ruth? Awesome. Oh, Ingrid, beautiful. Oh my goodness, everyone's just so good. Wow, I am impressed.
Did you design this whole process as far as layering and colors and shapes?
No, so this is our third virtual paint night that we've done. And so I did a lot of YouTubing beforehand to figure out what other people do. So what I do is I look online to find a painting that I want to create. And then I've used techniques that I've learned in the other ones to teach everyone. It's become a COVID hobby of mine to learn how to paint. So.
Yeah, and just to use those few 5 colors too. It's
Yes.
interesting. Yeah, how to combine with just a few colors. Yeah, that's good. You did a great
it's always
job.
a really cool thing to learn. Oh, thank you. So did everyone. Everyone's paintings look so good. It's nice to see so many new faces at our event as well.
I like
Is
that
it
you can paint over it and kind of correct things. I haven't
Yes.
done much painting, but with watercolor, you can kind of get into real trouble And here it's like, oh, good, I can just change that. So good.
Exactly. Yeah, that's acrylic is much more forgiving.
Yeah.
Just wait for it to dry and go on over it. And that's why it's okay when you're layering things to have it not work out always. If you don't like something, you can even just move a tree over so you don't see that part that you don't like, or add more
Yeah.
snow somewhere else. Oh, nice, nice, Barbara. You did yours landscape. I like that. In your cabin. Woo!